Hey gang, welcome back. This is Dr. Bosky. Today I thought I would walk you through how we set up the music randomizer in our game, Interstellar 1, for the Nine Hells boss rush mode. Alright, so why don't we hop over and I'll show you how we set this up, because it might be a little overbuilt, but we'll see. Alright, over here. Alright, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. So, we went a little crazy because essentially we built the Nine Hells boss rush mode and we have a fantastic soundtrack in the game, and I wanted to really have the ability for the soundtrack to be randomized. We used almost every track that we had, so we have a lot of tracks. And what happens is when I start the game, you can see that it's randomizing the music tracks. And let me see if I can find a good example here. One second. Here's a good example. So we also have, and I'll walk you through the logic in a second, but we basically have, I think, a 1 in 12 chance for any one of the music tracks to be selected. And then we have, and then we kind of go through that block a few times. And then we have if none of the tracks were selected, then we run the logic again and then go through. So, okay. So how did we do this? All right. So let me just walk you through this. All right. So, at the very start of the level, so what we have here, right, is in this particular case, because I built Nine Hells boss rush mode, I tried something a little different. So you can see that the area of my camera, which is this white dotted line, you can also see my frame rate is taking a dump a little bit in the editor. So I wanted a lot of logic to be available, because I really wanted to have each one of these bosses essentially be close to each other. So and I wanted them to wake up and blah blah blah. And there's a lot of additional logic that I have since pared down, but this is where we're at. So anyways, so at the beginning of the level, we basically have, it starts here where we have an enemy, and the enemy is what we call just a bool enemy. So all we care about with this enemy type is it alive or is it dead? And so what we've done is with the bool enemy, and a bool is true or false for the folks that don't know, is we have basically set, it has 1 HP, no items, no death, it's hidden when killed, nothing on the wave side of things, and there's no collision on it. So all we're doing is when the level starts, the bool enemy wakes up. And when the bool enemy wakes up, I should actually say, sorry, let me back up. So on the wave side, we want to make sure that it's attached to camera, because you can't kill something that isn't dead in the engine. That's just universal truth. And so if an enemy is not awake, you can't kill it, and we need to track its alive and death state. So and so what we do is we have this bool enemy here, and it's attached to the camera. I mean, technically I could, let me see, I think I've done that. It doesn't really matter in this case. You could make yours invisible if you wanted to track around, but because we're in the camera here, when it wakes up, it's going to travel along with the camera, so you can see it sticking to the camera. And so what we need is when we get to the end of the game, we are going to kill the bool enemy, and then we're going to trigger some in-game logic. So, all right, so that's the bool enemy. And then, so what we have here is we have a trigger, which the trigger is set to switch mode. This is very important. Basically allows you to turn things on and off. We have some other things like when the game ends, we want to stop the music. There's a few other conditions in which I need to check. Actually, I need to make a note about that. So I'm still debugging a bit of this as we're rolling out the Nine Hells boss rush mode. Check game over condition for, and it might be fine for stopping music. I just need to do the test there, because we also have a timer in the timed rush Nine Hells boss rush mode. So, okay, cool. So we have a trigger there, and this is set to connected enemy state as alive. So the enemy wakes up. Then we have just a 0.1 second countdown. I usually like to put countdown timers in here just to separate some of my logic. And that comes into the probability game logic. And the probability game logic is set to switch mode, so it can be also switched on and off. And then the probability we have set in this case is on an X chance. I think that, yeah. So, and on an X chance is choose randomly a number from 0 to this range. So we set that to 12. And so basically what happens is we roll the dice, and if we, let me see, is it this? Yeah. So if in that die roll, it rolls in a range of 1 to 12, then we're good. And we go on to the next step, which is then the connected enemy state is some alive, also set to switch mode. This goes into a timer, just separate the logic a little bit. And then we do a couple things. So one is we, again, with switch mode, with the sound property, we start the music. And then we do, this is just for the visuals, for the name and icon. And then we have another timer, and this timer is set to, so the duration of the track, it's basically, the track is 184 seconds. So I set a timer that starts along with the starting of this music, which is 186 seconds. So basically the tracks are all set to loop, and then, I think they are, actually they're not set to loop. So, and which is fine. So, but basically the track gets to the end, and then we are starting a new die roll at that point. Actually, let me see here. That is not entirely true. So then what happens is that we come on over here and we have another logic block. So that is kind of the upper area. I'll click through all this stuff again so you can see it here. So that is the randomized item, right? So now that you know what this block of logic does, then we say, cool. So, and this is probably the most important part. So on that randomizer, if the 1 in 12 range is true, then we go forward. And if it is not true, which, again, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I mean, I get it from a code perspective. So we say connected enemy state is some dead, also set to switch mode. And we say, cool. Then what we're going to do is we're going to roll the dice again and see if it's going to be a 1 in 12, which is true. And that will be a new music track. And then if it fails on that die roll, then we bail out and we go back, we come down to the next one and we say, hey, cool, is this a 1 in 12? And if it's true, play the track and all the bits. If not, and then you can see we go right down the list, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, basically, and I think that the key here, right, is that on this die roll, because it's set to switch mode, it can be true or it can be false based on connected to any state is some dead or some alive. This is super, super important. Very, very powerful. Okay. So, and basically, because I had that many tracks, we basically go through, and so I'll show you again. So there, you can see that it basically went all the way through until it made a roll to 1 in 12 down here and started that music track. There was a 3 there. Now in this case, this will make more sense now, right? Whoops, let me see. There you go. 1 second. And so what I had found, right, is that as I was rolling these dice, a lot of times, for whatever reason, not entirely sure, depends on how Sunny actually set up the randomizer. It could be based on time. It could be based on who knows? It could be on frames. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the code logic for that. There's no real thing. There's no such thing as true random in programming, right? So, but close enough. There's probabilities. But what I was finding, right, is that, and when I got down to when I was rolling through these, more often than not, that I would, none of these would be true. And I was like, well, if none of these were true, if I did 11 attempts to roll a 1 in 12, then at the end, I would basically have a complete fail condition. So what I wound up doing is at the end, on the final bit here, if I fail out at the very end here, and I think what I put some, yeah, okay. So then I put some reroll logic, right? So that comes down here and says, cool, failed on that 12th track. The 12th track is, yeah. So it's a battle track. And then I say, cool, it failed out. So down here, I basically go, cool, we're going to reroll. That's a fail condition. And then that comes back up here to the next block. So each one of these is a re-roll of the logic, right? And I basically did that 4 times. And any one of these could be a potential track. So I kind of randomized a bit more. I could have done a little differently, but I kind of wanted to, I wanted to have a little flavor, a little gravy sauce to essentially say, cool, if it fails out a bunch of times, there's at least another chance. So that raises the overall probability by 4x to roll a track. And I basically do it 3 times there. And if I fail, because I've seen this happen quite a few times, where it's each one of these die rolls for the randomized music fails out, then I come down to the final piece here. Is it here? Yeah, okay, cool. So I have basically instead of completely, so I do 3 attempts to randomize a track, right? And then if I fail to get a track 3 times, I go into the 4th block, and if it fails again, so it didn't roll a 1 in 12 for any one of the tracks, I basically then say, cool, for that block of music, then I select a, this is basically a quieter piece of music, and then we play through, and then I go, cool, once that track is ended, or if any of the tracks have ended, right, for any ones that have been selected, then we kick into essentially the next block of music to be selected. So we play the track. This is how we wind up tracking all the tracks. And then we go, cool, whatever music is done based on the timers that are custom for each of the tracks, we go, cool, let's repeat what we just did. So basically the mode is 15 minutes. And on average, I have, let's see here, what is this? On average, most of our tracks are 3 to 4 minutes. So there's a couple that might be a tiny bit shorter. But you can see here, so 1 music selection, 2 music selection, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I basically wanted to make sure that music was going to play randomly throughout the entire boss rush mode. Cool. So now that I've unpacked what that does for you, and here, let me show you, I'll show you in action a little bit here. So, you can see there. So there we got to the bottom. So look at this. This failed twice, so it re-rolled twice, and now I'm in the 3rd block. So that's what I was talking about. Sometimes with the randomizer, there's just how it goes, right? So, and then the last pieces, coming back to where we started, and again, I'll do this all at the end for you too, is we also have a a trigger connected to the bool enemy, which is also set to switch mode. And in this particular case, once the enemy entity is dead, all dead in this case, yeah, so all alive. So all alive starts the logic, right? And then when it becomes, so that's probably what we're saying. So when you're in switch mode and your connected entity state is all alive, if that enemy is dead, it automatically will then fire, it'll fire on the enemy dying. So because it's no longer true anymore, and that will then turn off all of your logic, right? So, and to give you an example of that, let me take a look here. So let me take one of these guys. Get a little timer here. We'll put that on 2 seconds. And then I think maybe I can, let me just for the sake of debugging. All right, so you can do this, and then we're gonna kill this. So basically I have at the end here, so this connected is connected to my final boss in the level. Also should be my, probably my fail condition too for the game mode. And when the final boss dies, we have a trigger condition connected to it. So then we set this kill box, and then we kill the enemy, and that then switches off any of the pieces of music in flight, because again, there's variable duration, right? And so what happens is that then this turns off all the music. Then what happens is that, so it switches off the logic for the randomizer, and then it also will trigger a music stop. So this trips people up a little bit here. So in the music object itself, you have a stop music. So that's pretty cool. And then after we trigger that stop music, after 5 seconds, because I want a little cooldown, because we're currently, like things are blinking, you finish the mode, and then we start essentially our kind of rank music. So this is your, on your way out type of thing. So the rank is kind of, it's not crazy heart pounding at that point. And I think that is pretty much it. Was there? Oh yeah. So let me show you this. So coming back to why I set this up. So So now you got a sense for that, right? So, and that's how all the logic works. I know this is a little daunting, and this is there. Like I said, there could be a more efficient way to do this, but what I found is through my own testing and my needs. It's all about how you design your own systems, right? Like this really kind of fits the flavor that I really wanted to hit. So, and for making things easier, I will then delete these bits. And as a reminder, right, like you should always, this is the music randomizer. You should always it's always nice to have all your scripts sort of nice and tidy. One of the nice little tricks you can have as well, right, is, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you turn on snap objects to grid corners, and if you go into preferences and you go to grid and snap, what I find is show grid spacing at 32 units. It basically, it's not quite perfect, but it feels like, for instance, what I really like, because you can see here I'm using a bool enemy, right? So, but I can also take and turn an enemy to, so this is a 128 by 128, and I know if is it 50, I think? Yeah, cool. So I can also shrink down my logic blocks. So it's kind of like you can, and you have, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So it really helps, I think, to organize how you lay out your scripts, right? And there's something silly, fun, cool about just the fact that like all the pieces are exactly the same. Because here's a couple things, right? Like a little pro tip for you. So I just got done debugging, basically debugging a bug with the script itself, where after I went through 2 blocks, I hadn't hooked up the remaining logic blocks here. So, so basically, let me see. Is there anything else? I'll walk you back through this as well. But what I've found, so like a little pro tip wise, right? So this main randomizer object is connected to each of the music complete states, right? So you have to connect all of them. And so it's helpful when you grab an object and you're basically moving it around to see all the connected lines. You can also, when you need to debug things, you can hold the control key and you can select all of your connector lines, and then you can track where those connector lines are, right? So then you can actually move the object around in low level, and you can see how things are connected together. And in this particular case, right, I needed every track, as you can see here, all these ones, once the tracks had completed from any one of these blocks, we wanted to start the next track selection, right? So just kind of a little pro tip on kind of the way you can organize things and whatnot. So, okay, so let me step you through it here. So, yep, easy peasy, right? This is the music randomizer. Starts with a bool enemy. Trigger condition, which is this. And you can scrub the video to see how you want to set it up for yourself, but you can always pause it and see, right? And then again, showing where this goes. So this is your basic logic block. And then we basically repeat the same logic over here, right? And then kick down to here. And then I don't need to go through everything here at this. So we iterate through. And at the very bottom, the main thing that we do is if we don't get the die roll, then we, in my particular case, then start the next logic block. So you can see that there, right? Okay. And then this is your end conditions. And there's that. And it's a reminder, it's very important that on your waves that you have attached a camera. And to show you, this is a good example. Like here's a piece of logic that spans the entire level, right? So having that little highlighted cable is quite helpful. So, and then over here, I basically have, once the final boss is dead, you can see that we kill the tracker enemy that we're using. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I know it's a bit on the advanced side. Again, like I overbuilt it a tiny bit on my side, But I think there's some really important core pieces of logic here that you can apply once you've got your thinking in this mindset with working with the Shmup Creator scripting system that you can apply to all kinds of different things. All right. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them down in the comments. Quick shout out to Sunny. We just got a new updated version of Shmup Creator Engine. Yeah, 1.6.2.1. I'm excited. The variable system's coming along nicely. The community has been vibrant, like with lots of great games are being made. And, this is what drives me to work on my own projects, but also to share and give back to the community. So thank you very much. See you all next time.